Hello, football fans. It's Little Dan here with another episode of the Fancast pre-match. On this week, I've got former Wolves defender, midfielder, striker, probably kit man at some point. Done everything at Wolves apart from playing goal. I think I've got Neil Emblen with me. How you doing, Neil?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Cheers for that introduction.
No, it's great to have you on. Massive fan of that sort of '90s Wolves era and the players that came of it. And you were in the middle of the majority of it. Um, what's your sort of brief memories of Wolves? Obviously, you joined in '94, signed by Graham Taylor. You had a second spell. I think, did Mark McGee bring you back from Crystal Palace?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Mark brought me back. Yeah, it was. It was a great 7 years of my life. It's such a massive club. I was pretty new to professional football. Only 7 or 8 months in, I was at Millwall, and then Graham Taylor paid a decent fee for me to come to Wolves when Wolves was sort of spending big and were championship favourites really in '94. I absolutely loved living in Wolverhampton, playing for the team, representing the city. It was a great time for me personally.
So you mentioned there moving to Wolverhampton, sort of settling in the area. Was that your sort of first move outside of sort of London? You're from Bromley
Yeah,
originally.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. When I was joined Wolves, I was 22. I was still basically living at home. When I was playing for Millwall, I was playing non-league football. I had an 8-month spell at Millwall, and I was still living with my parents at that time in those 8 months. And the first time I ever bought a house was sort of shortly after the July '94 signing at Wolves, and I bought a place in Tetnall. I wish I'd have kept it, but it'd have been it was lovely and settled in really well. And obviously had a nightmare of a debut, but bounced back pretty soon after that and had a pretty good year in '94, '95.
It's sort of, I don't want to say folklore, but this gets mentioned regularly about your debut and your first touch, doesn't it? How does that stick into so many people's heads? Was
Well,
it really that bad?
I think my hair was bleached so blonde it was sort of putting the fans, they were probably squinting as they looked at it. But no, look, first game of the season, I thought I'd try and show that I was, pretty much brought in to be a ball playing centre back. I thought I'd be clever and go back first sort of minute of the game. Mick Stow had the ball in his hands, and I thought I'd go and get it off him and start an attack, and just went to roll it out of my feet, fell over it, and we managed to scramble and get the ball cleared. But yeah, it was an embarrassing moment, really embarrassing. And I think for the rest of that game, it was still playing on my mind, and it was such a big occasion for me. I mean, I was playing in front of 300, 400 people the year before that, in non-league football, and then to get the move to Millwall and then to the massive club like Wolves, it was just a big moment for me, and it was it was terrifying, to be honest, at that stage. But Graham Taylor, very, very experienced manager. He saw the situation. He knew that we got away with a 1-0 win that day, to be honest, against Reading. I could have been at fault for a couple of goals for them, and Mike Stow, forever saved my bacon that day. He kept the 1-0 win for us. He kept a clean sheet for the team, but Graham was still clever enough to take me out of the team, say, look, this is a learning process. I had a week out of the team. I didn't play against Notts County the week after, and then got into the team the following weekend in the biggest game, West Brom at home, and he put me into midfield. So I think there was a little bit of not trusting me back at the back anymore. But I had to sort of earn my stripes, and that's when my sort of Wolves career really kicked off. We had a great win that day against West Brom with 2-0. It should have been 4 or 5. And I think every player was outstanding that day. And, West Brom just couldn't live with us. And from that point onwards, I felt at home and settled in what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah, I suppose that winning a local derby for a new team always helps you get on a good front foot from there. I think you said 2-0. Was it Andy Thompson and David Kelly, was it that day?
That's it, yeah. The only thing I was disappointed with, where he scored from a set piece, second goal, David Kelly scored, and I was right behind him ready to sort of tap it in as well. And I was obviously buzzing for Ned, but yeah, it would have been nice to score in that game as well.
So you briefly mentioned sort of the managers. Obviously, Graham Taylor signed you. Worked under Mark McGee, Colin Lee, and Dave Jones briefly. Obviously, Graham Taylor's probably the one that stands out the most in those names. But how did you find working under those different managers? Which manager got the best out of you? Do you think?
Yeah, I think Graham Taylor definitely got the best out of me. He knew when you sort of knew he didn't have to. He could lose. He could lose it. He could get onto you and give you, the rollicking you might need. But he also, you didn't want to get the look. If he gave you the look as though you were letting him down, that's the look you didn't want to see. And I played in fear of getting the look off of him. And thankfully, when he was there, I felt personally I did okay. The team, I had a couple of injury spells, but in general, when he played me in midfield, especially, I felt that I'd done quite well, during his time there. It's just unfortunate, that we started poorly after a hangover from losing the playoff semi-final against Bolton the following year, and we were under pressure straight away, and it just seemed like we had injury after injury in those couple of years when Graham was in charge, and a sort of real regret is just us not being able to achieve what we should have done with that group of players. And we had such a good group. We had a lot of depth, and that was good because we did get so many injuries, but so many good players in that era came to Wolves, and it was great to play with them. It was just, looking back, it was tough that we didn't do what we were all brought in to do.
And what you mentioned there, sort of being unlucky at the hangover of the playoffs, we never really had Steve Froggatt and Tony Daly both fit in the starting lineup enough to probably get us over the line in games where we was missing that final ball or that assist to Steve Ball, because if that one cross came in 9 times out of 10 in that era, he was putting it away, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
I did look that I think it might have been your second from last season before you left. There was only Darren Baisley who played more than you that season.
I get reminded of that a lot by Bays. Yeah,
that was under Colin Lee.
It was, yeah. It was my last sort of full season, yeah, it was a great year. I think we just missed out on the playoffs. I think second last game of the season, we just missed out. We got beat at Bolton away, and we missed out on the playoffs. But personally, that was a good year for me. I played in a lot of different positions. I enjoyed my football under Colin Lee and Mark McGee, to be honest. Mark McGee played me a lot at the back, in the middle of a back three. He liked playing a back three a little bit more, which I felt when I was playing a centre back. I did feel more comfortable in a three than being in a old school sort of 4-4-2. I think I would have rather been in midfield if we were playing 4-4-2. But Mark gave me lots of opportunities in a three at the back, and I quite enjoyed that. And Colin that year played me in midfield. He played me right back, left back when I had to fill in at times. I think I even played on the wing a couple of times. And I definitely played up front a few times when Adi Akinbaye was missing. So, look, I enjoyed putting the Wolves shirt on whatever position. I enjoyed, the rapport I had with the supporters and showing them that I played like a supporter would play if he was given his shirt. And that's what I sort of basically, because I worked a proper job, I feel, until I was 21, 22, and I wasn't given pro football so young. I think I sort of learned that it meant quite a lot to me, and I had a decent understanding what the fans would be looking for. So that's what I just tried to implement every week, as well as what the coaching staff wanted me to do.
How comfortable? What was your most comfortable position? We've got a player similar now, Leander Dendoncker, who regularly flutters between defence and midfield. I know you mentioned earlier sort of a ball playing defender, but where was your best position, centre back or in midfield, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to be, spoke of in a similar ilk to Leander. He's a top player playing for his country. It's people have made them comparisons before. It sort of takes my breath away, really. I mean, I'm sure on a smaller scale, but no, I feel like I had my best spells at Wolves when I played in midfield, if I'm honest. I felt what I could bring energy-wise and trying to break into the box. It was a lot of 4-4-2 against 4-4-2 formations then. And it was, if you run your midfielder one way, he has to come with you. And I always felt quite dangerous attacking wise, being 6'2", not bad in the air. I always felt like I could creep in between the two strikers who were basically marked by two centre halves in those days, and if I broke off my midfield marker, I could get in the box and cause problems. So in modern day, it's obviously more 4-3-3 with, either one holding midfielder and two attacking midfielders, or two holders and one attacking midfielder. I don't think that would have suited me as much. So I was probably, I do feel more 4-4-2 midfielder was my sort of game, and I was willing to do the sort of work both ways that's needed for that type of player, and I think that suited me. But definitely enjoyed playing in a three as well. I definitely enjoyed playing in a three at the back. I think I had a couple of top players alongside me. Dean Richards was alongside me at times. Jolien Lescott was alongside me at times, and John DeWolf and Eric Young. In between a couple of man mountains. It sort of, I liked it then when in a three, but I definitely feel in a 4-4-2 midfield back in the 90s was my best position.
I mentioned to you off air some of the calibre of players at Wolves that you played alongside. You mentioned there sort of Dean Richards, John DeWolf, you even Keith Curle that you played. Did you play alongside Keith Curle? I think so.
Yeah. Gordon Cowans was an absolute genius in my mind as well. I mean, 94 season he came in, 94-95 season he came in. Graham Taylor brought him in. I think he must have been 34 at the time, maybe even. What a genius on the ball, but the work he done as well off the ball and organising and just encouraging, and the way he was with us sort of younger players was eye-opening for me. He was a player I loved playing with.
I think sort of looking back on Gordon Cowans, you wonder how good he was when he was in his prime at Aston Villa. If he was that good when he was at Wolves, he made everything look so simple, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And when he's a European Cup winner, that says it all about him. Made England caps. I think, I heard one of his interviews, and he got played in the England midfield in front of Paul Gascoigne. So I mean, that's high praise, and he really was a top player with just unbelievable technique. Right and left foot, so natural both ways. And just a great decision maker and teammate on the field.
So obviously you had a brief spell at Crystal Palace after Wolves for a year, without sort of me trying to downplay the likes of Crystal Palace and Norwich. How does their fan expectation compare to the fans of Wolves? 'Cause I feel like sometimes Wolves fans, as good as we are back in the team, we can be a bit too demanding at times when maybe things are getting a little bit tough. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely didn't feel, no disrespect to either of those two clubs, but they didn't feel as big as Wolves. They just didn't feel as big. It didn't seem, to the fans as well, it just didn't seem to matter to them as much. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure in their own way it does. But, and I think, when you play in London as well, playing at Crystal Palace, all the players live everywhere. They live in different areas. They're maybe not interacting with the supporters as much because of that as well. In Wolverhampton and Norwich, you're definitely interacting with the supporters because you live in those areas. So I definitely felt those two. I felt more entrenched in those two places, even though at Norwich, my spell at Norwich was injury ravaged and I never really got going. So. But yeah, Palace was a different experience. My uncle's a season ticket holder at Crystal Palace, and my family are from South London, and that in itself, and to go and play try it in the Premier League, it was something that I didn't push at all. I just got told we've accepted a bid from Crystal Palace. It's unbelievable money for what we feel your value is, which I didn't feel bad about. It's like they got an offer that they couldn't refuse. I knew Mark McGee didn't want to sell me, but it was an offer the club couldn't refuse, and I sort of got told a day before the season was starting actually, and I didn't play in the first game of the season because they didn't want to risk injury, and then obviously it all got worked out, and a couple of weeks later I was in my little short spell at Crystal Palace, which eventually you get on with it. Obviously I was disappointed to leave Wolves. But I was also excited about the chance of playing in the Premier League. I won't lie about that. So, but yeah, I think going back through it, looking back through it from a career and talking about it, I think it sort of proved going to a team that was going to be always struggling in the Premier League and fighting for their lives. I wasn't going to be a creative enough player to play in a Premier League midfield. I may have been able to play centre half a little bit more in that league, but I wasn't creative enough, and I was the hard working side of playing in the Premier League was just getting to, there was players coming in the league at that time now, proper technicians, proper 3-man midfields that, can work the ball around you. And, I found it tough. And I think that the Championship level was really my level, if I'm totally brutally honest.
Yeah, so I did obviously a bit of research, and from what I read and sort of snippets from other interviews later on, you didn't really stand a chance when you was at Crystal Palace, did you? From sort of, was it Steve Coppell wasn't sort of overly keen on the signing? Their chairman was sort of throwing money left, right, and centre, and
yeah, it was. I mean, it was a weird year for the players that had been there for a long time. You had Crystal Palace stalwarts, that had been there. Your Neil Shipperleys, Bruce Dyers, Andy Roberts, David Tuttle and Andy Linnigan, all these players that have been at Crystal Palace a long time. I think they even found it quite hard. You had a chairman that was basically playing fantasy football and bringing in players that he wanted with his real money. I mean, he put his money where his mouth was, and fair play to him on that. But I don't know whether all the signings or whether all us signings were actually who the coaching staff wanted. I'm sure we was all on a little list, but I was obviously gettable at the price that was asked, and Tilio Lombardo and Padovano. There's some big signings coming in that have played, with decent pedigree and decent history, far more experienced than I was. But it was always going to be tough for everybody, to try and gel that team so quickly and then survive, in the Premier League. It's as you see this year with Wolves, it's been, it's hard to hit the ground running with a lot of, with newer players. It's players coming in, they need a little bit of time, and I felt I needed time to adjust to that level, even being from the country, and that never really got going because we was near the bottom of the league, and it was a struggle every week.
I was put you quickly on the spot because you mentioned a name there. Both sorts of players that were definitely in the latter peaks of their career. Tilio Lombardo and Gordon Kerins. Who was the better out of the two of those?
Different players, but different players. Tilio was the most dedicated pro I'd ever seen. After training, he had these little TENS machines that would contract his muscles, and he'd put them on his legs. He'd be in the gym. Apart from his bald head, which I can't really talk about anyway.
I was going to say we've got just a bit more than what he had, I think, and we ain't got much ourselves.
Yeah. He's facially looked old, but his body was like young. So young. He was so agile, and I would say Gordon Cowan's technically, but Tilio could beat people. He was more of an attacking player, and he was an absolute genius with the ball. I mean, he probably, I think we might have been relegated by halfway through the year had not been for his quality in the attacking end of the field. So, two unreal players. And you have put me on the spot, and I have sat on the fence, but I'd still, if I could play with one, just because he would understand me, I'd play with Sid.
So you come back towards some Crystal Palace, and you've got sort of familiar faces from your Palace time: Kevin Muscat, Dougie Friedman. Who was the other one? I forgot his name now. It wasn't. I'm not sure he was at Crystal Palace at your time, but one of my favourite all-time Wolves players, Simon Osborne, who I've tongue-in-cheek has said could easily be better than what Ruben Neves is. How good was Simon Osborne to play alongside with?
He was brilliant. Me and Ozzy had a great relationship on and off the pitch, to be honest. I remember when he first came to Wolves, we did go out. We took a Tuesday afternoon, we had a Wednesday off, and we had a few pints to get to know each other. We're both from a similar area, family backgrounds and stuff like that. And I love playing with Ozzy. I mean, he was a genius. And another one, genius on the ball, took risks. He'd done a lot of the stuff that I was more uncomfortable doing. I was more of a bigger, robotic, working type player. He was the one who made passes and tried to, put these penetrating passes through to strikers. And I know he talks about himself as being Marmite, and you either love him or you hate him. And I've heard him talking about himself in his Wolves career, but he shouldn't underdo himself. He to his teammates, we all knew his value and how he tried to get the team on the front foot and take risks to score goals, and sometimes that wasn't appreciated. And he's we were all willing to do some of the stuff, physical stuff, but I mean, he got stuck in. But I was prepared to do some of his running, because he did have knee problems, chronic knee problems throughout his time at Wolves, and but on the ball, what a great player. What a great player. And great lad. He is a great lad. Funny guy.
Yeah. I could happily do a compilation comparing Simon Osborne's free kicks for Wolves to Ruben Neves' free kicks to Wolves. I think the last time he came to Molineux was Wolves versus Sheffield United, who were playing this weekend, and I think he saw Ruben Neves at one of his better games that night.
He's had some good games though. But yeah, no, the whole team that day. I mean, I done an interview on the pitch at half time, and I just sort of took that moment to go. You knew at that stage the team was going to go up, and the quality of product on the pitch was just going to new levels. And it wasn't done and did at that point, but I just knew. You just knew. You had that feeling around the place. Everybody was together. I thought Nuno was involving the fans, and the emotion he shows. It was just fantastic. You just knew the club was going to get back into the Premier League and then push on from there, which they've continued to do. Which is, for an ex-player, when you talk about how many games you played for the club and in your career, it's great for me when I say I've played that many games for Wolves, because everybody assumes now they were that good when I was playing. So it's quite funny, but it's great. It's and that was the last time I was at Molineux a couple of years ago, and hopefully I can get back there in the off season at the end of this year.
Yeah, obviously at Colorado Rapids now, assistant coach working alongside former Wolves Fancast favourite Jack Price. How you finding it over there?
Yeah, no, I love it here. Actually, it's this is the start of my fourth season. MLS has really grown in those 4 years as well. Some real quality players coming over and playing. And they're getting a lot of quality players out of South America now at young ages that they're looking to sell on to Europe. And it's a really good league and a great city, great state to live in, Colorado. It's really, really pretty place. Mountains everywhere. Snow's still on them at the moment, as you can see with the snood I've got on. Hopefully the summer's on its way, but no, it's good. And Pricey, I think he's enjoyed it. He's enjoyed it as much as I have. He's been here. He's done 3 full seasons. He's been MVP for the team every year. Shows quality in all aspects of his play, his passing, his willingness to work, and he's a great influence in that change room. He's got the experience of being in Europe and playing at a big club, and he brings it every day. And the lads love him in there, and so do the staff. So long may he can stay here, and he makes us a better team for sure.
I'll quickly put you on the spot again. From your time at Wolves, who would have been the teammate who would have been disgusted the most if you turn up for training wearing a snood?
Oh, I don't even think I would have got away with a cap, even when it's cold. Definitely no gloves, no under the garments at training. I think we all wore shorts all the time, and they were short shorts then. The lads these days, they get proper wrapped up and who would have given me the most stick? Probably Curly. Curly would have been, if you turn up with anything that's probably non-appropriate and a little bit different, he would have smashed into you. But no, I mean, all the change rooms I was at Malls. Mike Stow was obviously another one that he had a column in newspapers, and he was quite good for hammering people, Stowley. So it's great to see him doing what he's doing now as well, by the way. What a coaching career he's having. So, but yeah, no, all the lads would have had plenty of banter at that stage on and I'm sure we talk about what the lads are getting up to now as well.
You played with sort of a lot of younger players at times who went on to be sort of Wolves legends, who stood out. Obviously, you got the likes of Robbie Keane, Jolyon Lescott, Matt Murray. We had some seriously good academy players then. What do you remember about them from when they were babbies?
Yeah, I mean, Keith Andrews, Carl Robinson, they both cleaned my boots for a little spell. Unbelievable, you know.
Did you give them a Christmas bonus?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think they'll say that I was all right. I was an all right pro to clean boots for. I mean, both of those players as well. They on top of the ones you mentioned, you know, Lee Naylor as well. There were some really good young players come through. They had a great, you know, really good scouting group at that stage, and they were bringing in some top quality youngsters, and they were all really good lads. You know, the lads from Ireland, great characters as well. Came in, settled, loved, you know, them off the pitch as well. Robbie and Keith were you know, centre of attention. Great lads, great in the changing room. You would never have known their age. You know, even you know, you thought the way they acted, they were more experienced players within the changing room. I think Keith was a really young captain. Robbie was just full of confidence and every day exciting, and we were, you know, who he was going to nutmeg in training that day. I think me, Steve Sedgley, the other midfielders and the players that were defending him at times, we all used to train with our legs closed, you know, just like legs together all the time. Robbie was just a genius, and we used to know he was just going to kick on and you know, have a great career like he did. For playing alongside, obviously, Jolyon, what a career he had, you know, Premier League winner, you know, multiple England caps. You could also tell Jolyon from a young age was going to go and achieve great things. And, you know, again, everyone in the change room, Lee Naylor, they're great lads, all top lads, top characters, who you wanted to be in the trenches with. And you know, although they were at big clubs, they were destined to do big things. They all still just embraced the changing room culture at the time and added to it. And you know, that's the big thing for young players. Can they add to the culture? Can they you know, be involved without overstepping the mark? And I think all those lads we've mentioned there done it perfectly.
A sink or swim attitude in the changes. I know you mentioned Steve Sedgley there, who I've heard many stories about. That guy, I think he was close mates with Paul Gascoigne, so you can imagine sort of some of the stuff that there was a story about him smoking a cigar.
It wasn't a cigar, though.
No, it wasn't a cigar. That wasn't, Neil.
No,
we'll leave the others to
yeah, it's he'd moulded it like it was a cigar. So yeah, that story is true. That story is true. And,
you work alongside, Steve Sedgley, a character. I think a lot of people forget that Keith Gill was part of the crazy gang at Wimbledon in the late 80s. Was he just a consummate professional, or did he have a sort of wild side?
He had obviously a very professional side. You know, when it was work, it was work. But you know, obviously from someone that experienced, you know, Man City, Wimbledon, good career, played England. It's like, you know, he knew when you could also joke and have a laugh with it and get away with it. And you know, you sort of needed those characters, and the ones with the experience are the ones that know when not to overstep the mark and when it's work, and ones who, you know, they know also when you can have fun and have a joke and build camaraderie and get on with your environment and build your environment. So yeah, I mean, he was a perfectionist at that, and he was also very good at, you know, pulling the old what do you call it, the grenade, throwing it and then disappearing. So letting it sort itself out. He was great at that as well. So no, there were some great characters in those 7 years, and you know, memories again on and off the field I'll never forget.
This weekend, Wolves are at home to Sheffield United, 8:15 on Sky Sports. you were a regular tormentor of Sheffield United in a Wolves shirt. There's the clips that we put out on Twitter today. The last minute header from when we were 2-0 down in '95, and then I think you scored the winner in '96 or '7. Do you remember any of the moments at games? The 2-2 was pretty special from when I was a youngster. I mean, being 2-0 down, former Wolves player Nathan Blake scored two for Sheffield United that day. John DeWolf gets an equaliser from the penalty spot, and then you turn up late from a Robbie Dennison assist. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, it was New Year's Day, actually. New Year's Day game, 1995, start of 1995. It's always nice to get your year off and up and running. And yeah, it was a unbelievable sort of ending to a game. You know, obviously being, I think, like you say, 2-0 down into injury time. You know, yeah, it's just a consolation. I honestly believed if we'd have played another 30 seconds to a minute, we'd have won 3-2. It was like the ball was being sucked towards the goal. It was amazing. And I remember feeling so tired after that game. I think it was just a draining. You know, sometimes New Year's Day games, they were difficult to get going into. You know, different sort of schedule. You know, earlier games at times. You know, staying in hotels the night before because they didn't want players sort of celebrating or being with their families. Really, it was like a shut-off day. But yeah, no, that was a great occasion, and the second one was a special goal as well. You know, obviously being the match winner. You know, in a 1-0 win. I think it might have been in '99 that one. I had probably the best couple of weeks in a Wolves shirt that I had. I scored at Sheffield United 1-0 win, and I scored it away at Fulham in a 1-0 win. And you know, just when you know you've sort of been the one that's got the team the 3 points, even though it's a team game. You know, it's just to be the eventual match winner when you're, you know, that's not really your role. It was always Bully's role or Don Goodman's or the attackers, the strikers role. When you win 1-0 and you score from midfield, it's always that you know that extra special feeling. And they were great games and nice moments for me personally.
So, just sort of tongue in cheek now, was the reason you got sold by you left Wolves in 2000, 2001 because of the injuries was having too much of an impact on you, or was it the fact that you saw the likes of Havard, Flo, Robert Nistroy, these top European players leaving Wolves?
I think my ending at Wolves came when I knew Dave Jones came in, and he wants his own set of players, and you know that happens. He wanted to bring players in. He knew I'd been at the club 7 years. You know, I've sort of said on record. I feel like he could have been more upfront and honest with me about it, but I also know that that's what he wanted, and I wasn't stupid enough to go. You know, he's not going to bring anybody in. You know, I'm going to be his cup of tea. You're always on edge when a new manager comes in, and a new manager that's going to be backed by the owners. And you know, they ended up bringing in Paul Ince and Colin Cameron to play in central midfield. And it's the same. You know, we spoke about Pricey and his end at Wolves was when Moutinho and Neves come in. You know, that they're players that are top players, and you look at them and go, wow, I can see that. I can see they've just gone next level now. They've gone next level. And that's what Wolves did. You know, there's no animosity. No, there was nothing at the end of it. I just wish the best for the club. And, you know, I went to Norwich and it was injury ravished for me, but they showed faith straight away. I think it was £500,000 they paid transfer fee, and they made me captain for the first game of the season. So that there was that new sort of challenge again. It's like, okay, so I'm not, you know, someone wants the next level of player. Someone now wants to take me to take their team to the next level. And, you know, that's football. That's football. It's something that, you know, all players have to deal with. And I'm no different. And, you know, Wolves from that stage onwards, Wolves were always going to be my club. You know, I enjoyed my time there so much. And it was just a case of, you know, when can I get back there? When can I start supporting them properly? When's my career going to be done? And I'm going to look back and always say that was my best team, or my team where I enjoyed it most. and had my best times, and I knew I was on the, my career was starting to go on the descent then, as soon as I left. So was I still going to enjoy it and try my best? Of course I was. But did I know that I was coming towards the latter part of my career? Yeah, I was. My eyes were always open to that.
You was talking about descent there. You had probably your best Wolves moment in a Walsall shirt. 4-1 against West Brom with teammates consisting of Darren Baisley, Simon Osborne, Vinnie Samways, Steve Corica. Do you remember much of that day?
Oh, I love that day. I'm sure. I mean, that was I joined for 3 or 4 games towards the end of the season before on loan from Norwich. And the loan spell went quite well. I'd had a long time injured at Norwich, and Colin Lee said, look, come get a few games in before the end of the season and we'll see what we can do to sign you for the following year. And that worked out. So my first real game was that game, first game of the season, as a permanent Walsall signing. And honestly, I think the Walsall fans were a little bit, he's ex-Wolves. There's a few that are ex-Wolves, and I'm not sure we're going to like this team. And we just all went out and absolutely just smashed into it. And I remember marking Danny Dichio, and he's a big presence, but just being super aggressive on him. And Paul Merson scored 2 magical goals that day, and got us off to a great start. We were actually 4-0 up in the game, and they scored a consolation through Jason Kumas. But it could have been more than 4. Honestly, we literally played them off the pitch. Last 15 minutes, the crowd were olaying, and it felt great. And I saw sort of some forums afterwards, and it was like, we were all accepted then after that game. It's like ex-Wolves, but we've all been accepted. And they knew that we was going to sort of bring it for Walsall as much as we could as well. And it wasn't just we were coming to a club that was lower ranked in a way, and we were still all in the same league at the time. But it was a good debut, and real debut for Walsall, and we all enjoyed it. Steve Corica as well. He wasn't always a Wolves fan's favourite, and he scored. I think he scored an absolute worldie volley as well on that day. The ex-Wolves players, I think Merson scored 2 goals, but I think I did officially get man of the match, so I'm always going to keep that one.
I'd love to see Walsall play West Brom in the near future again. Hopefully that can happen. Let's get back to the game on the week. Back on the weekend. Wolves Sheffield United. Obviously, Wolves are not mathematically, but definitely safe this season now. What have you made of Wolves this season with the injuries and recruitment, that sort of thing?
Look, the injury to Raul is, what would Tottenham be like without Harry Kane?
Well, they scraped Europa last season with him coming back late, didn't they?
Yeah.
But if they had him out the entire season, who knows where they'd have ended up? You're right.
Exactly. And look, Raul's done that well, and he's embraced the whole club and the culture and the city. It's like, when you lose that type of player, it's very, very hard. And obviously, the young lad Fabio's been brought in. He's not ready yet. He wasn't supposed to be ready yet. I mean, it's a big fee, and it's hard to replace. And obviously the injuries now to Johnny and Pedro, and it's tough. These are things that can happen, and it affects your team. Selling the two boys again. I think it's a tough decision to do that, but they've both offers that the service that Doherty gave the club and how much he cost the club. It's a way to, who knows? He might be a cut price comeback option, in a way. It was a great amount of money, and he'd done well for Wolves, and they accepted the bid. And same with Jota. Jota's come in, and he's done a superb job. He's proven to be a top signing for Liverpool as well. But it was unbelievable money, and it's. But then that rebuild takes a little bit longer. because you may not have expected to get those players to have been gone. But you can't stop other people trying to improve, other clubs trying to improve, and Wolves decided to sell those players, and then Raul gets injured. So it's been a tougher year. Look, there's still enough for me to know the club is so in the right hands and going in the right direction. And, you know, on and off the field, you know, it's been tough without the fans. And I do believe, you know, we talked about passion of fans. The last 10 minutes, and you're at Molineux, the fans can get you over the line. And it does make a difference. People keep going on about, you know, there's more and more away teams winning. Are we better away now because it doesn't matter with the fans? Yeah, that might be a case. But home fans, when the team is doing what they're doing and what they've done over the last 2 or 3 years, the team's going to be behind this team. The fans are going to be behind this team for a long time, and not having the fans has not helped Wolves and the clubs that have got that real passionate fan base. So, but yeah, look, there's lots of transition going on with the current squad. You know, players being asked to step up maybe before they were expected to step up, and being blended in. They've been thrown in at the deep end, a few of them. But you know, the club's in the best hands, in my opinion, and coaching staff are fantastic. And you know, as a coach now, I'm always looking at little nuances and the way teams play, and you know, Wolves don't let in many goals. They're very organised. They're hard to penetrate. They've obviously got a great leader in the middle at the back in Connor. But when you lose attacking threats, it's not as exciting at times, you know. And Wolves were always last year they had that counter-attacking threat a little bit more because Raul was that start of that. But they've missed him badly. But you know, he'll be back soon, hopefully, and you know, the team will hopefully get back to that level again, like it was at the end. You know, obviously last season.
I'll quickly come to you for a score prediction in a moment. You mentioned Raul Jimenez. You both featured in some sort of capacity at London 2012, the Olympics. Raul for Mexico winning the gold, yourself at New Zealand. How do you remember those times? Good?
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. You know, to be the head coach, we played at Old Trafford. I sat in Alex Ferguson's seat, and you know, to say you've done that as a coach is, you know, one of my highlights of coaching. We played against Mo Salah. He played for Egypt. We drew 1-1 with Egypt. You know, we had
Neymar.
Neymar, yeah. I mean, we had 9 amateur players out of 18 at that time for New Zealand. 9 of our players were amateur players, and you know, you're playing against Neymar, Thiago Silva, Marcelo, Sandro, all these players that are playing in top clubs around the world. You know, honestly, the Brazil list was endless. It was the list of players that were in that team were frightening, and they actually got beat, I think, by Mexico in the final. So, yeah, Raul, I didn't have to come head to head with him. We'd have had to beat Brazil for that, but no, it was a great experience. And I'm sure, you know, that's what I do love that about the Mexican and the Brazilian players. They're so proud to play for their country. You know, the fact that I think the club let him go and train with Mexico when they were on their last international duty. I think they're just, you know, both parties know how much it means to each other. And I think Wolves letting him do that and keeping him on the road to recovery and giving him a mental break of going and doing that, I think that's been a great move. And, you know, it's great management.
Right, let's quickly jump back to Wolves Sheffield United the weekend. What's your score prediction going into that game? Obviously, we can't bring you on late to get one of those late headers again, but where do you think we're going with this score result?
I don't think we'll need a late goal. You know, I think they're having a tough season. I actually played at Norwich with their interim coach Paul Heckingbottom. Probably only appeared on the pitch a couple of times. He wasn't in the side a lot, and I was injured a lot. But I've been following his coaching career. You know, it's been tough for them, you know, to become an interim and come in and take that job on when you're sort of that far behind as well. But I'm expecting us to go and win quite convincingly. I'll take a 2-0 because that's a good coaching result. It's a clean sheet. It's, you know, getting a couple of goals. It's building confidence. So I'm going 2-0. I think Connor will organise the troops. Obviously, we're hard to play against and at home, and hard to penetrate and get behind. So I'm going 2-0 Wolves.
Right, 2-0 Wolves from Neil Emblen there. I'm just going to have a quick fire quiz with you, Neil. It's only basic questions. Looking back at your time at Wolves, who was your best mate during your time at Wolves?
I got two. There's got to be two: Simon Osborne and Darren Baisley.
Who was the guy that you would least like to have roomed with back then? Or me just literally saying Steve Sedgley?
Definitely Steve Sedgley. Definitely Steve Sedgley. You would be waking up with something inserted inside your pillow, I'm sure.
Where do you keep your chocolate? In the cupboard or the fridge?
Fridge.
I like it. You're the first one in this series.
100% fridge.
We've had Kevin Doyle, Kevin Foley, Steve Froggatt, Richard Stearman, and you're the first man like myself that keeps it in the fridge.
100%.
And then last question is, who's your favourite out of Messi and Cristiano?
Wow.
You've already made the right decision with chocolate. Do the right thing with this one because I'm the only one who's picked the one guy, and you know that answer now.
Cristiano.
It has to be
Cristiano. Like, I don't know whether it has to be, but like
I'm fighting his corner forever.
Yeah, he's longevity, and just the way, I think you can still put him in any team and he'd improve it. I think same with Messi, but you could put. I think you could put Ronaldo in a struggling team and he might drag that team out of it. And I'm not sure you'd say the same about Messi. That's a tough statement, but I think Cristiano might just drag you out of a situation and take it on himself to make that happen a bit more than Messi might.
And the other point that Kevin Doyle made, you could literally play Cristiano Ronaldo in any position in a team, and he could play centre back for a team, and he'd still look like an elite professional. So that's why, for me, with his goal scoring record compared to Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo is the better out of the two. But we'll appreciate them both while they're still playing.
Exactly.
Neil, I really appreciate your time tonight. As you said, off season, once fans back in the stadium, we'd love to have you back one day to have another chat.
That'd be great. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, Dan. It's good talking about old times. Such a sort of great feeling with, the town and the city, and yeah, just love my time there, like I say. And it's always good to see the Twitter feeds and what's going on. Obviously at the moment with the injuries we've had and even more of these recent ones, it's just time for people to step up and get another result and see how high we can finish at the end of this year.
Nice one, Neil. Folks, stick with us after the break. We've got Jordan and Kim with us to talk way to bet your money on the Wolves Sheffield United game with Ball Sports and game week 32 tips in the Fantasy Premier League. Welcome back. Thank you again to Neil Emblen for coming on the show today. Absolutely. Another great servant of the club with many memorable goals in the old gold and black. But Kim and Jordan with me as usual to discuss, just briefly touch on the Fulham win, and then we'll preview Sheffield United and as well finish off with our usual Fantasy Premier League tips. How you doing, guys?
All good, thank you.
All good, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Any of you been out on the pitch yet?
I haven't. Someone has.
I went out Monday for a couple of sociable drinks. I haven't been out, as in out yet. I'm gonna weave myself in gently. But yeah, nice to be out and about again.
Representing the Fancast on the Fancast alcoholic of the group. Well done on that, Georgina best. Let's quickly touch on the win over Fulham. A massive win in hindsight with the loss of Pedro Neto. Those 3 points we're safe now, aren't we? If any, even the pessimistic Wolves fans like myself, usually we're safe now. You can play the kids for the rest of the season for all I care now. What did you think on the result for Friday night, Kim?
I've always said we were safe anyway before that, just because I think all the teams below us are just poor. Not that we've been exactly great this season. I suppose that result kind of cements it, doesn't it? That there's literally no chance of us going down, and it's all about, well, I suppose, one, relegating Albion, and two, just trying to get that top half finish, I suppose. And I think the performance on last Friday, I think it wasn't great again, but I think we showed that Adama for once showed that little bit of class at the end, and a great finish. Didn't expect it to go in, and quite harsh, I think, that people were on Fulham keeper. Yes, you shouldn't be in your near post, but for me, I think it was such a great strike that it's a bit harsh on the keeper there, I think.
What about you, Jordan? Massive 3 points, but performance analysis?
Performance, not great, but points all that matters, isn't it, ultimately? Sort of before the game, I said it was probably the biggest game of our season, just because of context, really. And you know what? We've got 3 points, completely safe now. And I'm a lot more comfortable now with going into the weekend, with those 3 points, because I think if we'd have even lost against Fulham, having no Neto and no Neves on top of everything else that's gone wrong this season, you might have started to actually properly look down the table a little bit. But important 3 points, and we'll be back in the Premier League next season, no doubt.
Quickly, both put you both on the spot here. Can we finish above Villa this season?
Not for me.
Ooh.
Inconclusive.
Just
What a
because
surprise, Jordan.
My reasoning is the fact that basically on fixtures, I think we've got some, as we all know, really on paper really good fixtures, and I don't think when I've watched Villa lately they looked a shadow of their former self, and they've got some hard fixtures coming up. So yes, I'm going to be positive and say I think we can finish above them.
Why do you think not, Jordan?
Well, we played a game more than them. There's a 20-goal difference swing, and they're 6 points ahead of us. So maths would tell me we're not going to. Basically, let's call it 7 points. They're 7 points ahead of us with a goal difference, aren't they? And with all our injuries, I can't see us getting 7 more points than Aston Villa till now to the end of the season. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but just with the context, it's just context for me. I think full squad, I think we've got a massive chance, but I think we've got too many injuries, to be honest with you.
Well, you're just looking at their fixtures, that's Villas now. They've got Man City, they've got Man United, they've got Chelsea, and they've got Tottenham. So I would think we can.
I think purely because of how toothless they look without Grealish recently, that there's a chance. I would sort of, if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably go with Jordan's opinion, purely because of how much points they've got an advantage on us currently. But like I say, with the fixtures that we've got, and the fact that Villa look a bit toothless going forward. I know Ollie Watkins is still quite in the goal scoring charts, but there's still a chance. Keep the faith, Wolves fans. Let's quickly touch on the game at the weekend, Saturday, 8:15 on Sky Sports. At home to Sheffield United. Ball Sports have us to win at 4-6, draw 12-5, and Sheffield United win at 9-2. What's your opinions going into that game, guys? What do you want to see from a sort of team lineup sort of view, Kim?
I would actually just stick with the back four now. I think, even though I know a few weeks ago I'd say back five, but I think with the personnel that we have, I think we've got to go with a back four and just attack them. They're not being smashed every week, are they? Sheffield United 5-0, but they are losing by 1 to 2 goals per week per match. So I think for me, it's got to be a win, and we've got to just go at them because let's be honest, I can't see them scoring. I don't want to jinx it, but I cannot see them scoring.
So you said mentioning sort of stick with the back four, the exact same back four that played at Fulham, or any changes in the midfield defence anywhere really?
I wouldn't. I think. Well, Bolly's not back. Is Bolly back?
think
from
Bolly's spot.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to play Bolly and Cody, haven't you? I mean, yeah, it might be a bit harsh on Sace, but for me, maybe Bolly, Cody at centre back. Maybe Matinho comes back in. No, he didn't. He came on. Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think we've got to go all out. No Neto. Put Sadama in attack. Fabio Silva has to start, obviously, and see where we go from there.
What about you, Jordan? What's your sort of mindset with the sort of lineup going forward for the rest of the season? Now, the fact that we're pretty much safe and we've got now Pedro Neto.
I'll just play 4-2-3-1, like I've said for weeks now. I think if that is the formation going forward, stick with it. And if we, you know what, if we lose all 7 games or win all 7 games from now to the end of the season, we're not going down and we're not going to get European football. So we're going to be in that cluster of teams in between it. So I would like to see him play Vitinha. I'd like to see him play Morgan Gibbs-White. I think that, again, I don't personally think Morgan Gibbs-White is good enough for our level. But it's one of those things, isn't it? We've got 7 games to go. If you play him in the number 10 in his preferred position, give him minutes on the pitch, and he still doesn't do it, then we know he's not good enough. At the moment, there's still a little bit of a question mark for me if he could step up or not. But I just think now's the time to experiment a little bit, give Vitinha minutes. Let's have a look at Otasawi again, and sort of, I think that is the approach. But whether Nuno does that or not, I'd be very surprised still, to be honest.
I personally don't think he will. I think he will literally just, stick with the tried and tested. I'll be surprised if Morgan Gibbs-White or Vitinha get a start.
I think there's something still in the back of the mind. The fact that I wouldn't say threw away, but we decided that the league was more important than the FA Cup. Purely from a financial point of view, I still think Nuno's been told we have to finish as high as we can. Obviously, the higher you finish, the more money you get. So I still think he'll be looking at results more than performances. If it was me, I'd like to see a quite big attempt at experimentation. I'd like to see maybe Hover and Bolly in a centre-back pairing to try that and see how that works. I think the fullbacks pretty much pick themselves at the moment with Semino and Ryan Aït-Nouri. You can look at sort of giving Morgan Gibbs-White and Vitinha minutes, but I still think you need a bit of a workhorse either in Dendoncker or Sace in the midfield with them. I think Sace's midfield days are pretty much done and dusted now, but I still feel like he's a better midfielder than what Dendoncker is. I'd like to see Fabio and Jose together working in a 2, with maybe Jose working off Fabio and just making chances for Fabio just off headers and shielding. What's your sort of betting tips for the game on Saturday, Jordan? I know you were on the podcast this week, which you can still listen to if you're out there, viewers, on all the main podcast outlets. Where's your money this week on Bet-wise?
I sort of said it in sort of jest, but I do think we'll win the game. And this was, the podcast went out post knowing how, Neto's injury or even Neves being out as well. I'm predicting Wolves to win 3-1, but I do think Sheffield United actually might score the first goal. And if you're a fan of the podcast, you'll know that there's a certain someone who's a fan of John Fleck. So I'm going for John Fleck to score first, Wolves to win 3-1. And that's put a pound on 360-1. It's what Dan likes. He likes the big uns. So that's what I'm going for.
Bet small, win big. There's your money. John Fleck to score first, Wolves to win 3-1, 360-1. It's a nice little Butlins holiday on the back of that. Treat yourself. What's your money on, Kim?
Well, I go a little bit more safer with my betting. So I'm going to be positive and say Wolves will win this game. Sheffield United are a very poor team. So Wolves to win 2-0. And Adama first goal scorer is 28-1. Or if you don't fancy Adama, I would also back Connor Cody first goal scorer. And Wolves to win 20-1. Either of those is worth £1, I think, or a £5.
Let us know where you're putting your money on in the comment section below, folks. My money on this week, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't think either team are great defensively at the moment. He has to break his duck sooner or later. VAR cost him last week. I'm going William Jose, first goal scorer. Wolves to win 3-2, 100-1. As I said earlier, bet small, win big. Let us know where you're betting. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let's quickly jump to this week's Fantasy Premier League. She done it again, Jordan. This one over here.
Missed it,
way.
Meg.
This one over here, done it again. I don't know how she keeps doing it. I thought I had a good week. I even had the Stuart Dallas bench points come on to get me. I think it was a plus 60 score. But Kim's still in the top 10, pushing for those Champions League places. Where we go in this week, guys? I'll come to you first, Jordan, and I'll come to me second, and then Hero McGee on the left of me will tell us where to go.
So I think Spurs got the double game week, so I'm looking outside. I don't think you can, even though how poor they've been, I don't think you can really look outside of Spurs' pick. Everyone will go Kane. I need to make up points, so I'm going for Son as captain this week to make up those points. In terms of differential, I've made my one transfer, because you can go a bit mad chasing that double game week, and they haven't got a fixture the following week. So I've just done quite a simple one, and I brought in Japhet Tanganga at £4.8 million. Mourinho likes him. Spurs conceded 3 at the weekend without him. He's going to be back in.
Kim's reaction to that differential said it all then. Right.
Well, I can't see a Spurs clean sheet, to be fair, in either game. So, yeah.
Right. So this week for me, I think obviously you've got the advantage of the two Spurs games. Just refresh my mind quickly. Who was Spurs playing in those two games?
Everton and Southampton.
Right. Okay. I'm going with the man who's obviously the most informed player in the league at the moment. That's Jesse Lingard. That guy. I think he's just, for a midfielder, at such a still low value compared to the likes of Bruno Fernandes, who's at home to Burnley, and Salah, whoever he's playing this week. I've got no interest in Mohamed Salah anymore. You're going to Liverpool player, Diogo Jota, cheaper and centre forward. My differential this week, a guy who's definitely got a goal and assist in him, been in the news a lot the last week. At home to West Bromwich Albion, it's James Maddison. That's where the differential this week is, folks. Another cheap midfielder. He's got a point to prove. He needs to hit the ground running if he's still going to make this England squad, which is probably a long shot for him there. But that's where your differential this week is. Any further comments, you guys, on wherever else to spend your money on the Fantasy Premier League? No? Okay. It's a great episode this week, folks.
It's all on Kim, isn't it? We need to hear about Kim's selections. Which are too good now, shouldn't share them.
Yeah.
Okay, I will share a little bit. Not too much, but I will share. Obviously, my FPL captain will be a Tottenham player, and I just am going safe with Kane, obviously. I think Son's a decent option, but I'm just too scared not to go for Kane just in case he does return big, and that'll affect my rank overall. And then in terms of differential, definitely a great pick by me last week. Alexandra Lacazette got me 13 points and has got Newcastle, West Brom and Fulham in the next 3, I believe. And he's only got 8% ownership. So he's not cheap, but definitely worth a punt.
I'm not sure about you, Jordan. I think if you're looking for a striker out there at the moment, guys, get yourself on Kelechi Iheanacho. Still cheap value at home to West Brom this weekend. That's another differential you want to be looking at striker wise. Yeah. Any further comments this week, guys? Are you going out to watch the game on Saturday, or is it another one in lockdown?
I've got a family.
Yes, I am out actually watching it.
Good. Jordan's, you're at a family barbecue, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm at a family barbecue. Yeah, so I'm at the brother-in-law's for a hot dog and a burger to watch the game. I'm not drinking Lambrini like Kim will be around the streets of Broad Street on the Saturday night.
Broad Street?
Outside reflex. Right,
No,
so yeah.
I'll be sipping a cocktail in Brindley Place this weekend.
The other half live down middle class folk.
You can take the girl out of Finchfield, but you can't take Finchfield out of the girl. You're from Finchfield, have I read that up?
Yes, originally, but we don't tell
Okay.
everyone that, do we?
Finchfield OG. There you go.
You got any comments to make on the episode where you want to talk about in future episodes? As always, continue to follow the Fancast. If you need any printing or embroidery done, get yourself to the sports shop at Kings Winford. They did this flag for us. Great little shop. They've also got a uniform shop now for all those parents with kids going back to school in the summer. Thanks for your time today, guys. As always, keep following the Fancast. Podcast them out. We've got YouTube episodes pretty much daily now. Kim, Jordan, say yourself goodbye.
See you later, folks.
Bye.
And Kim's waving for all the people listening on the podcast outlets. See you later.